What's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. So this video is not going to be too much of a formal kind of thing. However, this is going to be regarding about the movie Shazam. This is an honest review. I'm not going to go over every single detail. And it hasn't been too long since I saw it. It's probably by the time this comes out, it'll be like about 2 hours or whatever. But without further ado, let's kind of jump into today's video. So the movie Shazam, I really enjoyed it, and just to get the ratings out of the way, obviously I do it on a scale of 10. It's a round number. It's a lot more easier to it's a lot easier for people to comprehend. So out of 10, I would give this movie actually a 7.5 out of 10, and I'm going to go over the reasons why. So you already know this is about Billy Batson. He gets the powers of Shazam, and even the way that they kind of did it was very interesting when they introduced the villain first before they really introduced Billy Batson himself. So I enjoy that a lot. You have Dr. Sivana, who came in as a kid. Initially, Shazam picked him up thinking like he was a possible candidate to inherit the power as a child, but he could not resist the 7 deadly sins. So next thing you know, Shazam, told him, hey, you're not ready. You'll never be ready. And then he banished him from the Rock of Eternity. But then the 7 deadly sins, obviously, after they tried to manipulate him to take the power, this whole life they've kind of been playing behind the scenes and manipulating him. And you see while he's a child, after he, gets banished from the Rock of Eternity, that they're actually telling him to, come find us. Because at this point in the movie, Shazam's power, the wizard Shazam, his powers are actually weakening. And they do state, the sins do state this themselves, like, oh, your magic is weakening. So they were able to release little bits of magic and little bits of information in order to draw Dr. Sivana in and kind of manipulate his whole life in order for him to find the Rock of Eternity. So we fast forward to what they say is the present day, basically. And obviously we run with Billy Batson. He's doing what Billy Batson does, where he's kind of not a troublemaker, not like someone who's, evil or anything like that, but he's causing trouble just simply because he wants to find his parents. And later on, I'll discuss, what's going on with his mom and the reason why he was even in the foster care system or whatever like that. So I'll get into that later. But he's not causing trouble for the sake of causing trouble, but he's just kind of still trying to find his way, because obviously he's a kid who's in the foster system and he wants to know who his parents are, which is extremely normal and actually something very human. And that shows that he has a big heart. He just wants to belong like any other kid. And eventually he gets caught up with the police with one of his stunts where he basically gets one of the cops locked into the car in order to get information from the police computer that's inside the vehicle. And we fast forward and he ends up in foster care with the rest of the Shazam family, or what everyone knows as the Shazam family, or I guess his local family. I say Shazam family because I'll get into that as well. But yeah, he goes through the motions. He goes to school with them, and obviously they go through the whole character build where initially when he got there, he wasn't too, I wouldn't say too fond, but he just still wanted to be a lone wolf. He wanted to be by himself, but you still know as a character he still has a big heart. Just the world has kind of played certain situations, and he somehow still has like this outer coating, basically just a tougher skin. Goes through the motions, saves his adopted brother at this point in time. Then after that, he actually runs off, and then he ends up on a train, what you see in the trailer, and then boom, he ends up in front of Shazam. Now, the person who plays Shazam is, I'm gonna like butcher his name, but Dimon Hunsu. I don't know. I'm butchering names. I'm terrible with names. But this is the same guy, obviously, who was in like Beauty Shop, or if you've seen the Marvel movies in the Guardians of the Galaxy as one of the Kree soldiers. Also, if you've seen any Marvel movie, I think specifically it was the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That's where you see him when he's initially chasing after Star-Lord. But he's the one who plays the Wizard Shazam. And basically, this whole movie's from the perspective of a kid. So a lot of the stuff that he does is what you would expect a kid to do if they found out that they were given powers of a wizard. And don't get me wrong, people who know the Wizard Shazam, who've read comic books, Shazam is extremely powerful in a lot of ways. And then he's imbuing him with his powers. So he imbues him with his powers, and then next thing you know, he has the powers of Shazam. Now he does this with his adopted brother, They go through this whole I think it's they go through all these motions. They start to figure out how to use their powers. And this is his adopted brother. I think his name is like Jack Captain Marvel Jr. I think his name, the actor who plays him is Jack Dillon, but I forget his name in the actual movie for some very odd reason. But they're experimenting with his powers. They show like, you know, hey, this is the abilities that he has, and he gradually starts to unlock them as he kind of goes along. But fast forward, I like the character build. Like I said, this is all from the perspective of a kid. So then we kind of eventually figure out that Billy eventually wants to use these powers to kind of just, you know, be alone by himself. And you kind of start to see that as the movie goes along, as he starts to get a little bit more comfortable being a superhero and shouting the name Shazam, obviously, to use these powers. So that's kind of normal. Then, you know, Billy does his whole thing, run away, and then eventually Dr. Sivana actually pops back up, but he finds a way back to the Rock of Eternity by somehow figuring out or managing to put the symbols that he saw when he initially was put into the Rock of Eternity into a specific order, as well as they were repeated, and then he was able to write them on a door, which gave him access to the dimension in which the Rock of Eternity was being held. He managed to free the 7 deadly sins, which gave him powers similar to what he would have had if he had the powers of Shazam, and he's the villain. Pretty straightforward when it comes to that. Now, like I said, all this is still coming from a perspective of a kid, so when Dr. Sivana actually encounters young Billy Batson, that's when things get like, you know, pretty fun and interesting. You see, like, as a kid, that's like overwhelming to deal with, but it's just like, oh my god, I have powers. But then he didn't really want to fight because he got these powers and just wanted to use it to kind of find his mom, or, you know, do things so that way he can live on his own, so that way he could eventually run into his mother. So that's all that's basically about. Then him and like I said, the actor who plays Captain Marvel Jr. or Shazam Jr. or whatever, Jack Dillon, who plays his best friend, his adopted brother, basically, they come into kind of this head-to-head kind of headbutt in terms of ideology, where he calls him a bully, which obviously at the time Billy was being a bully because he didn't want anything to do really with the family. He just wanted to find his mom. And that's pretty much about it in terms of things that were extremely relevant, because that's pretty much what they do. Obviously, it stretches out for an extended period of time. And then after that point, he runs into, well, like I said, eventually he runs into Dr. Sivana, who sees that he's kind of arguing back and forth with Billy Batson, puts 2 and 2 together. He knows Billy Batson, and he holds him hostage. And once he kind of figures out that, you know, he's being held hostage, you know, eventually he'll, you know, go save him at the end of the movie. But also, before he even realizes that he was kidnapped, one of the other kids in the adopted family, who's in the Shazam family, it's the Asian kid who was in the group home with him, actually was able to find information related to his mother. Then we find out his mother actually abandoned him in the carnival and actually just didn't want him. So Billy got a rude awakening, but found out that his friend was kidnapped, and eventually he went to go save him, and that's when that whole battle took place. And then they jumped from the Rock of Eternity, escaped, and then they were still fighting Dr. Sivana using the sins. And the way that they knew to defeat him was simply he would expel the 7 deadly sins from his body, but once they would leave from his body because they were using him as a conduit, he would actually be weak. So he was mortal once all those sins left his body. So that was a cool little caveat to his powers in the whole 7 deadly sin situation. But then this is where it gets really cool and more of a interesting kind of turn of events. So remember, in the beginning of the movie, or anyone who reads the comics, Captain Marvel Shazam, he has the power of the wizard Shazam. He said, you know, say my name and you'll be imbued with all of my power. So basically he was the wizard. Now they did play on the fact that there were 7 or 6 other wizards that were actually in the Rock of Eternity, who actually were controlling each specific realm in these magic realms, which I'm not going to get into because obviously it's not really relevant as of right now. So they play that heavily, where like there are other wizards, but they got killed by the sins in some way, shape, or form, and then it was only Shazam left. So basically what happened is, at the end of the movie, he managed to get the staff from the Rock of Eternity through the fight, because eventually that Sivana picked it up, but then after that Billy Batson got it. Was able to get the kids to all touch the staff, and then they say their name, say his name, Shazam, and then boom, you have the Shazam family. Like I said, it was really, really, really enjoyable. Overall, like I said, I give it about like a 7.5 out of 10. And I like the fact that they introduced the Shazam family at the end of the movie. They didn't focus too much on it. You still got the solid origin, and this all takes place of the perspective of a kid, but you still get those nice little tidbits, those funny moments, and things you would expect from people their age to do. And it was actually really enjoyable. I liked the movie. I actually liked it better than Aquaman, but Aquaman was still good, don't get me wrong. But I liked it better than Aquaman, and obviously Wonder Woman was a good movie. So out of all all the DC movies so far in the DCEU, I only like Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman. That's about it, actually. So this is another movie showing that they're just starting to figure out what to do and what direction to kind of go into, and I don't want them to lose this stride because I really enjoy this movie. But let me know what you thought about the movie Shazam. If you're new, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe and leave a comment down below, and let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you later. Peace out.